I can still see her face, clear as day, the kind of expression you never forget. That smirk, sharp, arrogant, dripping with the kind of confidence that only comes when someone believes they've already won. Her name was Clarissa, my wife's sister, and she held her fork like a scepter while her wine glass trembled ever so slightly in her hand. She leaned back in her chair with all the ease in the world and declared, almost as if she was announcing the weather, "Your wife told me I'll be moving into your house soon." The words echoed across the table, and for a moment, everyone laughed nervously. It was the kind of laugh people force out when they don't know if a comment is meant as a joke or not. But her eyes, dark and steady, never left mine. Clarissa wasn't joking. She was testing me, daring me to flinch, daring me to show weakness in front of her, my wife, and the entire family. She wanted to see me squirm, to see if I'd confirm what they had all been whispering behind closed doors, that I was nothing more than the fool, the easy target in this carefully played game. But I didn't falter. Instead, I smiled. Calm. Controlled. A smile sharpened into something like a blade. "That's funny," I said, my voice measured, even playful. "I sold it last week for $40,000. Silence fell like shattered glass across the table. Forks hovered midair, jaws froze. Wine glasses paused on their way to lips. My wife's face drained of color, and Clarissa's smirk faltered for the first time that night. That was the moment I knew everything was about to change. But truthfully, that dinner was only the beginning. The war had started long before that night. Years before, actually. I had simply chosen to fight it on my terms. For most of my marriage, I played the part they wrote for me. Provider. Chauffeur. Problem solver. At every family dinner, I was the one who paid the check. At every crisis, I was the one they called. My wallet was their safety net, my time their endless supply of support. In the beginning, I didn't mind. I loved my wife, Elaine. I thought that supporting her family was simply part of the package. Marriage, after all, is about unity, about sacrifice. Or so I believed. But then there was Clarissa, always present, always circling. She wore her confidence like perfume, thick, intoxicating, almost suffocating. She smiled at me often, but her smiles never reached her eyes. They were masks, thin veils that hid something darker underneath. At first, I ignored it. Told myself I was imagining things. Told myself that love meant trust, that suspicion was poison. But love blinds, and they thrived on that blindness. It began with the little things, conversations that died the second I walked into a room, whispers that evaporated into thin air when I appeared. My wife's phone angled away when I passed by, the glow of the screen reflecting secrets I wasn't meant to see. Clarissa's car parked outside far more than any casual visitors should have been. A laugh shared too easily, a glance that lingered a moment too long. The kind of things you brush off when you want to believe you're secure. The breaking point came one night. Elaine was drunk, careless, her guard lowered by a few too many glasses of wine. She laughed too loudly at something on her phone, then muttered words she didn't realize I could hear. "When I get the house, you'll finally understand what loyalty is worth." She froze when she realized I had heard, but she didn't retract the words. Didn't apologize. She just met my eyes across the room, her stare cold and unyielding, daring me to question her, daring me to challenge her. That was the moment the illusion crumbled. My marriage wasn't built on love. It was built on convenience, on calculation, on a contract I had never signed but had been bound to anyway. My house, my paycheck, my future, all of it was theirs to plan around, theirs to exploit. That night, the pain I felt was molten, raw, but as it cooled, it hardened into something sharper, something far more dangerous, resolve. Rage would have been too easy, too reckless. Rage is loud, clumsy, predictable. Revenge, on the other hand, is something else entirely. Revenge is patience, precision. It's not a hammer, it's a scalpel. So I began to plan. I started quietly, gathering information. Property deeds, financial records, bank statements. I combed through every account, every line of credit. What I found was worse than I imagined. Elaine had drained more from our shared accounts than I ever realized. Thousands funneled into Clarissa's hands, loans dressed up as favors, small leaks that bled into rivers. My money was being siphoned away, drip by drip, into the pockets of the very people who smirked at my table and whispered behind my back. I didn't confront them. Not yet. Confrontation would have been too messy, too soon. Instead, I acted in silence. I opened new accounts, ones Elaine didn't know existed. Slowly, I redirected my deposits there. Quietly, I rerouted bills, closed access, one line item at a time. She didn't notice. Of course she didn't. No one notices the pipes tightening when the water is still flowing. But the centerpiece of it all, the crown jewel, was the house. The house was more than just walls and bricks to them. It was a trophy, a symbol, the prize Clarissa believed would be hers one day. They spoke of it like it was already in their hands. But it was mine. It had always been mine. And they had no idea what I planned to do with it. During lunch breaks, I met with real estate agents. I signed documents disguised as routine errands. Appraisals, inspections, offers. Each step taken like a shadow slipping through the cracks of the day. And finally, when the time was right, the sale went through. $40,000 transferred directly into an account only I controlled. Secure. Untouchable. All the while, I kept my mask intact. At home, I smiled. At dinners, I nodded politely at Clarissa's poisoned remarks. I kissed Elaine each night as if nothing had changed. Let them believe they were winning. Let them believe they had me cornered. The sweeter the illusion, the sharper the fall. And that brings me back to that dinner table. I chose it carefully. Family dinners were always their stage. Clarissa would strut in with her new dresses, Elaine playing queen of the room. They treated it like theater, with me as the silent prop in the background. But that night, I reclaimed the stage. I sat at the head of the table as always, but this time, I was the one pulling the strings. Clarissa leaned forward, her smirk rehearsed, her voice dripping with mockery as she said, "Your wife told me I'll be moving into your house soon." Perfect. Right on cue. I let the silence stretch, savoring the tension. Then, calmly, almost playfully, I slid the envelope across the table. "Funny," I said. "I sold it last week for $40,000. The sound of my wife's fork hitting the plate rang like a bell. Elaine snatched the envelope, her fingers trembling as she scanned the documents. The signatures, the stamps, the seals of finality. Her lips parted, but no words came. Clarissa leaned over her shoulder, her face draining of color as she realized the truth. The room exploded. Elaine's father demanded answers, his voice shaking with fury. Her mother gasped as if she'd just witnessed a murder. But I didn't look at them. My eyes stayed locked on Elaine. "You sold it?" she whispered, her voice brittle. I leaned closer, lowering my tone so only she and Clarissa could hear. "It was never yours." Her eyes widened. Clarissa shifted uncomfortably in her chair. They both knew I was right. The deed had always been in my name. They had assumed I was too naive, too trusting to ever act. That assumption was their undoing. I didn't wait for the shouting to subside. I stood, buttoned my jacket, and left the envelope on the table. Inside were copies of the sale, the cleared checks, and a note written in my own hand. "The account is mine. Don't waste your time searching for it." As I walked away, I heard Elaine snapping at her sister, blaming her for rushing the plan. Their so-called unity crumbled in minutes. That's the beauty of betrayal. It never comes from enemies, always from those who call themselves family. And when it collapses fast. People ask me if I regret it, if I miss her, if the silence of my new apartment feels heavy after so many years of chaos. The truth? No. Because revenge, when done properly, isn't born from anger. It's born from clarity, from balance. Elaine and Clarissa built their empire on lies, on my foundations. I reduced those foundations to ashes. And now, when I think of that dinner table, that smirk, that arrogance, I don't feel bitterness. I feel satisfaction. Because in the end, they thought they were writing the script, but it was me, Anderson, who was holding the pen all along. And to anyone listening to this story, never let others write your life for you. Take back the pen. Take back the script. If you felt the weight of my journey, if you've ever been underestimated or betrayed, let this be your reminder. Strength is quiet, patience is power, and victory is sweetest when no one sees it coming. If this story struck something in you, if you believe others should hear what happens when loyalty is betrayed and patience is rewarded, Make sure to share it, subscribe for more stories like this, and remember, you are always stronger than the lies built around you.